Welcome to Spoilerful Reviews, where we're going to be talking about story, gameplay, aesthetics, and time value of Amnesia, a machine for pigs. So Amnesia was one of the biggest video games that literally revolutionized YouTube gaming when everyone and their mother was reacting to this guy popping up and scaring the hell out of you.
Expected not to open.
But The Dark Descent wasn't the only game that came out in the Amnesia franchise. While the base game had one DLC to it, developer The Chinese Room made Amnesia, a machine for pigs, originally as a mod for the game, but was picked up by Frictional Games and it slowly became a spiritual sequel to the original game. So sorry, no Blob Man memes or anything this time around. This time, it's all about the pigs in this spoilerful review. So when talking about the story for Amnesia, a machine for pigs, well, it kind of sticks with the title of the game. Amnesia. You play as a man named Amandus who doesn't remember anything and wakes up in this big mansion. The story of the game is revealed over the course of notes, journal entries, and dialogue, and while this does mean a lot of reading and listening, it is all pretty interesting. It starts easy enough. Amandus is trying to save his kids and is told by a man on a telephone that he needs to descend down under the mansion into a laboratory where his kids are being held captive and could drown. Better yet, as you start to descend, giant pigmen start chasing you around. Also worth noting, this machine is literally like a giant maze on its own, with offices, to power departments, to holding pens, to the core machinery. Eventually it's revealed that a saboteur is destroying the machine, which is ultimately stopping you from going down further. And so you start patching the machine up so you can go down and eventually save your kids. As you start to recall all of your memories throughout the course of the game, essentially you find out that the pigmen are Frankenstein's monster, hobbled together parts of pigs and humans and follow the will of their creator. Anyways, Amandus activates the machine. Turns out it was all a clever ruse by the voice on the telephone, who ultimately tricks Amandus into activating it so that he can unleash the pigmen and kill all of the human beings in society. It's also revealed that Amandus had interacted with some artifact that gave him visions, driving him insane, and he himself sacrificed his kids to the machine. And they've been dead this entire time. Oh, also, to make the pigmen, they needed mass amounts of human sacrifices, which is always not a good thing. At some point in time, Amandus realized he was going crazy, and so he sabotaged the machine, making him the saboteur. And then the guy on the phone also turns out to be the messed up part of Amandus, which bonded with the machine and still wants to unleash the pigmen on humanity. Something about it's better than humans destroying themselves, and ultimately hitting the big ol' reset button on human society. Eventually, Amandus does make it to the innermost chamber and sacrifices himself to the machine, ultimately shutting it down for good. So the story is very interesting, and if you're okay with reading and connecting all the dots, it is incredibly rewarding, almost putting you in the seat of a detective while navigating through the story. Plus, there's a bunch more facts on why Amandus went crazy, how he manipulated people and ultimately built the machine, which is all really super cool. However, a lot of this stuff is just found throughout notes and scattered all over the mansion and the laboratory, so you really have to go and take your time to gather up all of this information. If you love lore hunting throughout a game, then this is perfect for you. For a verdict, definitely a thumbs up, but just know that you're going to be doing a lot of reading and not everything is just kind of given to you, which kind of makes it more intriguing if you ask me. So moving on to the gameplay of Amnesia, a machine for pigs, well, similar to The Dark Descent, there isn't too much beyond just walking around and moving simple objects to solve puzzles. However, what I actually really liked about Machine for Pigs, and this is going to be a little controversial, is that it also got rid of the insanity system and lantern oil, meaning you can stay in the dark and you can use your light whenever you want. For me, while it takes some of the tension away, I thought this made the game a lot more approachable and less frustrating because you didn't have to constantly worry about dying and could focus more on what is going on in this mystery. Although worth mentioning is that I never really did die to the pigmen, ever. While they still kind of scare you, they aren't super dangerous at any point. They just come off as really creepy and, generally speaking, pretty easy to avoid. Another point that I want to mention is motion sickness. Good God, did this return from The Dark Descent. Thankfully, there are some workarounds, but man, that camera sway and motion blur effects made me feel like vomiting before I had to go in and change some system files to kind of get rid of it for good. So for the verdict on the gameplay, this is a thumbs up because it still felt scary because the pigmen are still terrifying, but not frustrating to me, which was honestly my biggest problem with the original Amnesia. It's simple and it works, and the narrative is the main focus here. For the aesthetics for a machine for pigs, well, Amnesia is like the kind of the gothic horror experience, and Machine for Pigs is no exception. From the original mansion to the underbelly of the machine, the world feels so well crafted, it's kind of amazing. Prime example is when you realize in the mansion that all of the portraits and mirrors are just one way. and even though there is no one watching, it is still very unnerving to realize that someone could be watching you. Better get in the machine when you walk into the final chamber. Seeing the vastness of it just makes you just kind of take a step back and go, wow. Monster design is also very much on point. The pigs feel like abominations when you see all of their stitches on them, or how your lantern starts to flicker when you look at one, and the snorting you hear whenever one of them is around. It just throws shivers down your spine. The sound effects in this game too are also guttural and very loud, which makes you feel them even more, just because usually you're sneaking around and everything is quiet and then suddenly boom, exploding tubes in the machine.
Oh snap. Oh, I thought that was going to do something else.
So for a verdict for the aesthetics, hell to the yes thumbs up. This honestly was Amnesia's selling point for the Dark Descent, besides YouTubers freaking out of course. And they do a great job in Machine for Pigs with building that atmosphere in a little bit of a different spin. So let's talk about the time value and price of Amnesia Machine for Pigs. Right now it is $21 Canadian dollars on Steam, $29.99 on Xbox, and you can get the Amnesia collection for $39.99 on PS4 or $29.99 on the Nintendo Switch. Roughly, this game took me about 4 hours to finish, so not super lengthy in time. Given the nature of this game, it's not anything that's really too special, and I would say probably don't bother paying for it, especially at full price. It usually goes on sale, like right now as we're recording this, it is on sale on the Epic Game Store for like $2. Then 100% buy it. It's great. Otherwise, unless you're really interested in the Amnesia franchise as a whole, before you want to start Rebirth, of course, then the collection is a good way to catch up on everything. But it is still a little too pricey in my perspective. And that's the spoiler-full review for Amnesia, A Machine for Pigs. It really is a neat little title that captivated my interest as someone who rode that kind of YouTube horror train back when the Dark Descent first launched. So as always, let me know if you agree, disagree with me down in the comments below, but also let me know when you kind of heard about Amnesia as a franchise. Did you also ride the original YouTube wave? Did you start a little bit later on after all the games came out? Or are you only getting into the franchise now because Rebirth is launched? Also, if you have any game suggestions that you would like to see me play, then let me know. I'm always looking for new games to play, always looking for new versions of these videos to come out. Last but not least, as always, you can watch me play these games live if you tune into my Twitch at twitch.tv/GoStillPlays. Thanks for tuning into this spoiler-full review, and we'll catch you on the next one.